Yes.
Okay.
And like I just want her to get her trained so I can just have her near me, and because right now she just basically does whatever she wants.
Sure.
And she does have really bad separation anxiety.
Okay.
And that's another thing I mentioned, because she'll just cry and cry whenever I'm gone.
Gotcha. Okay, feel free to have a seat here. Yep. So, fill me in, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Sweetie.
Sweetie. Fill me in on Sweetie here, just like, so I know general obedience, having control.
Sure.
Separation anxiety, but anything else you think I should know about her?
She's a great dog. She's not aggressive. She cries. She cries constantly whenever she can't like go up and smell a dog.
That was what I heard up there. That
Yep. She was crying, and like in small spaces, she'll get like really anxious, but I haven't seen one bit of aggression from her.
Okay.
I just need help training her.
Okay.
I've tried, and I definitely need assistance.
Okay. What have you tried?
I've tried to get it. I've only got her to sit.
Okay.
I get her to sit. I can't get her to stay, or I haven't been able to get her trained on commands.
Okay.
But basically, I've been every day just getting her as tired as much as I can.
For the separation anxiety stuff?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I basically for maybe like the past 2 weeks, I've left her alone maybe 2 hours. The past 2 weeks.
Okay. Oh, in total?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You can't get out.
Yep, and I'll limit when I'm leaving because of my neighbors, and she'll if I don't put her alone in a room that's secure, she might destroy stuff.
Sure. Yeah. How long have you had her for?
I've had her since July, so about 3 months.
Gotcha. Okay, and have you noticed all these behaviors from like the get-go? Or did
Yes.
they like, okay.
Yes.
You work from home?
I do work from home. I own my own business, so
Sure.
I can
You're
stay
fine.
home, or
Sure.
I actually just took her to the office today.
Sure. How'd that work out?
Great, because it's just me.
Okay.
The office.
Yeah. And when you said like you taught her to sit, was that with food and stuff, or?
Yes.
Gotcha.
She's very, she's very, she loves food, so I got her attention. It's like, what is happening?
Good catch.
But like when there's other dogs around, the food doesn't work.
Oh, sure, yeah, distraction. Yeah. And where was she rescued from?
She was Kankakee, like it was an old friend. He had a litter, and he was going to keep her, but she was too rambunctious for her.
Okay. Is
So-
she spayed?
Not yet.
Not yet. I was gonna say, so she looks swollen.
She's just going through her first cycle.
Gotcha. So how old is she now?
She just turned a year.
Turned a year.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you got her in July. You got her from Kankakee, from a breeder.
It was a friend. Friend, yeah.
Okay. Now, was it an attendant breeding, or was it like we have two pitties and we got puppies?
No, I think it was attended. Would you say attended? Yeah, he had it.
Yeah.
Yes.
He planned on it.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Anything else to hear about Sweetie that I should know about?
No, that's pretty much it.
Gotcha. Did you do any research on me before reaching out, like how we train, how I train,
Yes.
and all stuff? So you're familiar with the e-collar and all that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What drew you, I guess, what led you to think like this was the approach for you?
I saw your reviews, and I wanted, I thought about boot camp, but I thought it would be much better if I'm involved, because she needs to learn it from me, and I know the training is really for me.
Sure. Yeah, it really is.
It's for me, it's not for her, because I'm the one that's going to make sure that she follows it.
Correct, yeah, because you're going to be with her 99.9999% of the rest of her life, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, cool. Just make sure that we're on the same page and stuff, because sometimes people book, consultations, and then they're
Don't know what to expect.
Yeah, you know, like it's on the
Absolutely.
consultation form.
Like you,
put it right
I know I'm not gonna tell you what I want.
Right.
I tell you what I expect, and you're gonna tell me how to get to where you need to.
Correct. Okay. So the obedience aspect here is the easiest part. Okay. Whenever we deal with dogs, obedience is easy. It's mechanical response. It's behavior that's always difficult, and in my opinion, separation anxiety is actually like one of the most difficult behaviors. Okay, or it can be.
Okay.
Separation anxiety, in my experience, is not anything that the dog is born with. Okay, they're not, you know, like dogs can be born aggressive. They can be born with anxiety, or they can be born with nervousness or fear, or like a high level of these emotions. Separation anxiety tends to stem from the relationship with the owner. Okay, too much attachment. And because of COVID, this has actually been pretty common because a lot of people are working from home.
Right.
You know, so and sometimes like when people rescue dogs, either the dogs is like bounced around too much that, you know, they're so used to like the change in how do you say,
environment,
the lack of consistency and change of environment, that they like right off the bat will like attach, you know, and then leads to issues. So there's a couple ways we go about addressing the separation anxiety. Okay. One is, it is possible, not because of the obedience that the separation anxiety gets better, but because of the discipline behind it, okay? Because think of separation anxiety, I guess the best way I can explain it is, if we take parents, and they have a child, right, a young child, 4-year-old child, whatever, and they wake up and that child were to be gone, how do you think they would feel?
Anxious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
freak out,
Yeah.
right? Call the police, or, you know, looking everywhere, check with neighbors. Now, if we reverse that, and the child wakes up, and the parents are gone, okay?
Oh, they'd be scared out of their minds.
They'd be scared, but it's a different type.
Right.
Because they're scared because they're alone.
Yeah.
They're not scared for the safety of their parents. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah.
So here, when a dog feels they own something, and you leave, that attachment of like, where are you going? I didn't give you permission, all that stuff can lead to the, you know, the vocalizing, the barking, the destructive behavior that you can see. Okay? So if the role is, hey, I'm dad, your daughter, and I go where I want, when I want, with wherever I want, and she's like, okay, you know, it's that kind of mentality of, if she doesn't own you, you're free to do as you please, we shouldn't see anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're doing discipline, that puts you in an authoritative position. So like growing up, like I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I couldn't discipline my brothers and sister, right?
Right.
That's my mom and dad's job. And if I tried to do that, I would get disciplined for doing that, not my place, right? So when you're the one that's putting rules to things and boundaries and consequences, it puts you in that role that ideally it'll resolve that anxiety issue because she's not in charge, okay? In some cases, it doesn't work, okay? Because either the attachment is too strong, or maybe the dog is just genetically, how do you say, they're bad
Just
genetics.
wired that way.
Just, yeah, you know, they're wired to have really strong attachment. And it's not so much that it's wired for anxiety, it's the attachment. Is that we go to tools like the bar collar. Okay, familiar with the bar collar?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you use a bar collar by itself, it's addressing the symptom, but not addressing
The cause.
Exactly, right? So it'll mask the barking and everything, or it could
And
mask.
she'll just do something else.
It's possible,
Yeah.
right? So I usually go with, on 2 fronts, where I'll say, you know, we'll start with the training and everything, and then we'll see if there's
See if
any
it-
progress.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're gonna get that bar collar, and it's both things working together.
Excellent.
So I actually have a case like that right now, and it was actually a really easy case, and we got it resolved by, I think she just had her 3rd class. So, because the dog was dog reactive, so when you see dogs, he'd lunge and bark.
Right.
We got that done in the class, and then the 2nd class, she already had the bar collar, she's like, he's still struggling with anxiety, and I was like, you know, it's, I think she had it set on 1, and I said, put it on 3, and then by the 3rd class, I was like, how'd it go? She's like, after a day on 3, he's not barked anymore. So those 2 things working together, both the training and the collar, have helped resolve the separation anxiety. Now it's giving time to see if she can wean them off of it, because since it happens when you're gone, that's the hardest part. That's what makes separation anxiety difficult, is it happens when you're gone, right? So a lot of people get stuck on wanting to move past these tools, and you know, we do in some cases, but in other cases we don't. I don't know what it's gonna be, right?
Every case is different.
Exactly.
You just use the tools, whatever, to get the desired result.
Correct. You know, so I usually tell people, give it a couple of months, and then you can experiment with like, you know, because you want to create habit. The new habit of like, I don't freak out when, you know, dad is gone. So then once we get that consistent for a couple of months, then I go, okay, we can experiment and see what happens. And some dogs will be great. Some dogs will be great for 8 months, and then they start barking again, and then bring back the bark color, you know? So it goes a lot of different ways. But it's just making people aware, because I think people think is when you train a dog, I always hear like they should know better, you know? But I
The
go,
dog doesn't know.
yeah, exactly. Like that's a
Doesn't
human
know.
thing. Humans
Yeah,
know better.
We know.
Humans are self-aware. We know what's allowed and not allowed in us.
Exactly, and that's what I have to teach her. I have to teach her what she can do and what she can't do.
Correct, right? So, you know, dogs are very simple. Humans, I think, because we're humans.
Much more complicated.
Yeah, you know, and we think dogs think like humans, and that's not the case.
No.
So it's super simple. In terms of like control and stuff, obedience-wise, if you could have the life you wanted with Sweetie here, like, what would that look like?
That I could walk with her off leash, and she looks to me to see what she can do. She just sticks to me until, like, I don't even need the leash.
Okay.
That's what I want, where she is by me. Like, I've slowly trained her. Like, the great thing about it is, like, she is attached to me. Like,
sure. So
she won't bolt. She'll stay near me. I have a personal electric vehicle, like,
sure.
that I take her to. I run her like 3 miles to get her tired, and I'll run with her off leash, and she'll stay near me, and so I got her trained like that. But if there's another dog, or like the other day, we were at the park, and she saw a gaggle of geese. She took off for them, and like she fell into the lake, chasing after them. I was able to get her out.
Sure.
But I mean, it was scary. It was hilarious afterwards, but it was scary. So I don't want her to be reactive where she'll see a squirrel and take off.
Sure.
I just want her near me where she asks for permission to, like, she knows she has to get the okay.
Wait for you to get the cue.
Yep.
Correct. So there's off-leash shield, there's off-leash recall. What else?
She knows, like, I don't want her, I want her to know that when she meets people or somebody comes to the house, she sits there, she lets them touch her.
Okay.
Not her jumping on them.
Okay.
And,
so manners, essentially.
yes.
I know right now because the seasons are changing, we're going in the fall and the winter, but would you take her to restaurants with you or anything like that, or
I would love to.
Or,
I mean, I'd love to, like, dog friendly. Yeah, I would absolutely love to take her.
Okay.
So like, that's another, I want her to not be reactive. She's as long as she's around me, she's calm, and that way I can take her wherever place that allows me.
Gotcha. So yeah, like, let's go like with the reactivity that I heard. When she's reactive like that, have you allowed her to actually greet the other dogs?
Yes.
And then she's
fine.
okay, so she's really overstimulated.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she'll cry until she can go, and then she'll sniff them. But that's another thing, you know, she needs to understand that those dogs aren't there for her to smell.
Sure.
Like, she's like right on top of them. She doesn't care that she's scaring them. And she's she doesn't do it aggressively, but she's all over the place.
Sure.
And like, that's another thing, if the dog reacts badly and barks, she's gonna bark right back at him.
Right, okay. And then, have you been socializing her regularly?
Yes.
Since you got her?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So she's good around dog, and then, it's another thing, she's weird around German Shepherds and Huskies.
Okay.
But like, if it's a puppy, she'll know it's a puppy, and she'll let them do whatever they want, and which is great.
So you said Huskies and German Shepherds. Has she ever had a negative reaction or hackles go up or?
Not like where she smells it. It was everything's cool, and then the one time with the German Shepherd, she thought it was a fighting over a ball, and then she hated that German Shepherd from now on. And then the other time she was reactive from them barking at her.
Sure, gotcha. Okay.
But like for the first time, like actually last night, there's like a dog walk by my building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an enclosure where all the residents can bring their dogs down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big Great Dane that she plays with. He's like 6 months old, but he's like a freaking horse.
Sure.
He puts her whole head in his mouth and she doesn't do anything. And there was a German Shepherd that she never got along with,
Mm-hmm.
that because of him, she was docile, just running around playing, and she played with him.
Sure.
And there was she didn't bark at him or snap at him or anything.
Gotcha. Okay.
And like when I took her to the dog beach for the first time a couple weeks ago before it got cold, and she's a completely different dog. Like she's playful, like she sits by me, she doesn't run, she doesn't bark at any, none of the other dogs do anything that bothers her. Like she plays and she's like the perfect dog.
Gotcha. Okay. There was one thing I was going to ask you. Alright, I forgot about it. Okay. So essentially what dictates length of time and cost is just how much you're trying to achieve. Okay? Again, the obedience stuff is the easiest part of dog training because it's just mechanical responses. I say sit, put your butt down. Right? I say come, get over here. But things like, aggression, separation anxiety, those are things that there's gray area,
Right.
And it's just like what the owner is willing to accept. So for me, there's no real right or wrong answer. It's just what's the answer going to be.
Okay.
So separation anxiety, worst case scenario would be, she'd need a bark collar. Okay. If you're fine with that, then there's no issue there. Okay. But we'll see what we fix as we go along.
Right, because we'll see what we need to do.
Correct.
Okay.
And I have specific exercises meant to address separation anxiety.
Great.
That don't need the bark, that does not need the bark collar. But at the same time, if it's like, hey, I'd like to have a life, then bark collar is the fastest way because then you can just pop it on or it'll do its work and you can just just go. Okay. So
I did find that if she gets really I have a crate for her. But she goes especially nuts, like when I put her in the crate, like
Sure.
she'll constantly, and actually the last time I put her in the crate, she took a dump in it.
Sure.
And then I put her in I have a room, I just moved to a new place, so I have a room that there's nothing in it. I put her in there, she goes crazy. If I leave her in the apartment by herself, she'll be fine, and I set up empty boxes for her to destroy. Like I'll put her toys out around for her to play, and then I'll leave, she loves to destroy cardboard boxes.
Gotcha.
So I leave those out, and I come home and they're torn to pieces, and that's the only thing that's torn to pieces, which is great.
Sure. So it's a bit of a workaround. Now,
Exactly.
The only thing is, it is reinforcing that behavior. It's smart though. I've had people, the dog has separation anxiety, they're like, Jesse, I'm not going to crate train the dog. I leave the dog in the kitchen, the dog's fine. I go, all right. I personally don't care.
Right.
But I'll let them know, but just, let's say you have to leave your dog with a friend, they're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's actually pretty clever. So yeah, if you're like, yeah, I'm fine with she may need a bark collar or something, then that part is easy. Okay. That's like worst case scenario, of course. I don't know whether or not she can be weaned off it or not, but we know if it's on her, she's going to be settled and all that stuff. When it comes to the obedience aspect of it, if you're wanting the full control of walking her around off leash, come and call off leash, being able to go hiking with her and not worry about deers, ducks, raccoons, squirrels, rabbits, all that stuff, going to restaurant patios and having her with you and stuff, that's my longest program, which is 12 classes.
Okay.
So I have 3, 6, 9, and 12 class programs. The 3-week is super short. That's really meant for dogs that have reactivity, and the owner just cares about the reactivity, nothing else.
Okay.
The 6-week program, or 6-class program, is leash walking, come when called. We always.
And this is in a group setting?
This is a one-on-one.
One-on-one?
Yeah. Okay. The 6-week is walking on the leash, come when I call you, and we always want to build that to off-leash reliability because come when called is going to be off-leash, so if it's not off-leash functional, then it's worthless.
Right.
Okay. The 9-week program, so that's the 6-week is kind of I walk my dog to the park, I need my dog to come back, and I walk back home again. The 9-week program is heel, come and called off leash, and then stationary control, which could be like lay down and don't move for like 2 hours, okay? So that's more of the walk to the dog park, go to the restaurant, have my dog sit in there for a bit, and then come back home. The 12-week program is all that, plus like I want to need heel off leash, tell my dog to lay down, and no leash, they'll stay there for 2 to 3 hours, go hiking. It's like the full, like the whole 9 yards or whatever. Okay, when it comes to control. In your case, you have options. It's just, if you know for sure, yeah, I want complete control, then 12 classes is what you're looking for.
Okay.
If it's like, I really want to focus on, the leash walking and come when called and the distraction stuff so she doesn't take off into the leg again, and then the separation anxiety, then you're in the 6 to 9 week realm, okay? The separation anxiety is going to be a class in its own, and then it's an easy exercise to start practicing, and then we see does that work, and then we give it a week or so, and you're like, no, she's still kind of having issues. We get the bar collar, pop it on her. I'll tell you like put this on her at this number, and then you're like, you know what, Jesse, 2 worked, and she's quiet now. Then I'm like, great, we found the solution for that. Okay, and the rest of the stuff, again, it's simple because it's just condition and chemical response.
Yeah.
Okay. How much does she weigh?
45 pounds.
45 pounds. So the collar sheet you need runs about $287 the packs.
Okay.
It's a 3/4 mile range, so plenty of range for the standard family pet. Fully waterproof, both the receiver and the transmitter. And it goes in increments of 1 up to 127. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 127. Okay.
Oh, you mean like as far as megahertz or?
The contractions, the voltage.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So other brands you might find go to like 5 or 10.
Uh-huh.
So 10 and 127 are the same, but I have 117 more divisions than the other collar.
What's the
It's Dogtra, D-O-G-T-R-A, 2300.
D-O-G-T-A?
D-O-G-T-R-A,
T-R, Doctra,
2300.
2300. That's about just under 300?
That's 287-ish. If you go to Amazon, it's a little bit cheaper.
Gotcha.
And I think they even have like extended warranty. It comes with a 1 year, but I think on Amazon you can extend it like another 2 years, which is, I think, worth it.
Excellent. I mean, I could get that in a couple days.
So yeah, there's cheaper models and stuff, but they either, the way the stimulation is given or comes across the dog, it's not great. It's more, so most people when they think about e-collar think like a shock collar, right? And the term shock comes from the old school collars because they were very primitive.
They're rudimentary. They're like, you just need to shock it.
Exactly. And there were like 5 levels. So now like the equivalent of 5 back then is 127. So now they're much more refined. Is that? So same output, but just more divisions now. So let's say you had one that went to 10, 5, she's yelping, 4, she's not listening. Right, so with mine, let's say the equivalent is 50. 50 is too high, 40 is too low, 45, 44, 46. I can fine tune it.
You have more range.
Correct.
Whereas the other ones, it limits what you can do.
Correct. Yeah, and like I don't know if you're familiar with like electronic fences.
Yes.
So those only have typically about 5 levels. Okay. Because they only care about the dog not running away.
Right.
Right. So you don't want to have.
And it's only interactive once it reaches the barrier.
Correct. So there, because you don't want to risk the dog running away, those operate on a much more harsher degree. Whereas when it comes to training a dog to actively do things, it's much more nuanced. Okay. So e-collars, are you familiar with what they are?
E-collar?
Yeah.
Roughly.
Have you ever been to a chiropractor or a physical therapist?
Yeah.
Have you ever had TENS or stim therapy?
Yeah.
The muscle contraction?
Yeah.
That's what you call it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? So people think it's like a taser.
Or it's painful.
Yeah. Or they think it's like putting your finger in an outlet, like electrocution.
Yeah.
So it's electric, but not electricity.
Because I totally, so it's just stimulating the muscles.
Correct, it's centralized. So she'd wear the collar on her neck, and then you would see her neck muscles twitch. And then, much like at the chiropractor or the physical therapist, they start low and they work their way up. And then they tell you, like, tell us when it's too much. And you'll tell them, oh, that's too much. They go down a little bit lower. They say, how is that? You say, that's pretty good. And they let the machine do its work, right? Very similar with dog training. We start low, we work our way up, okay? Sweetie knows what the number's gonna be, I don't. I just know how to find it, okay? So it could be as low as like 8, it can be as high as 85.
Right.
You know, every dog is different. People tend to think like, oh, my dog's so soft or they're so sweet that they're gonna be so low in the collar.
No.
But I tell them like dogs are physically tough. You know, dogs bite each other, that's how they show affection, it's how they correct each other, it's how they communicate, it's how they play. It's a lot of just biting and nipping and stuff like that. So they're used to physicality, so their tolerance for discomfort is very high, which is why the e-collar is so effective. Because, you know, I've had in the past, I think, actually since COVID, I've had about 5 dogs whose levels, a normal level on a normal day is like 85. And they're all pits, actually. Okay, because pits are physically tough.
Yeah.
But I've also had pits that are very sensitive, you know? So we figure all that out during the class. Like I'm there and I coach you through it, and I'm watching her, and Sweetie, her reaction is telling me what's too much and what's too little, okay? Then my job, of course, is to kind of help educate you to recognize that so that you can continue your training, okay? The first thing that we always teach is the heel, which is, you know, walking with you. My style of heel, because we want to build to off-leash, is if I take 1 step, the dog takes 1 step.
Yeah.
If I take 5 steps, the dog takes 5 steps.
Yeah.
When I stop, the dog automatically sits. This was with complete slack. I don't care what the environment is. I don't care if there's dogs. I don't care if there's people, skateboarders, rollerbladers. In any environment, I want that tightness. Okay, because if you don't have it that close, off-leash is not going to be functional. Okay, so like people will settle for like the dog being a little bit off because they're like, well, the dog's not pulling. I'm like, yeah, but as soon as you go to fully off-leash, your dog's gone now. You need the tightness in order to get functional off-leash heel. Okay. Now, obedience-wise, the structure typically is we go from heel to recall into stay, into like place, then down and sit. So if you're doing a full 12-week program, typically within the first 6 classes, we teach all the commands on a short leash, okay? And then the second 6 classes, we're practicing all those commands to build them up to off-leash reliability, okay? Now, recall does take people the longest, because unless you happen to have a nice open park in front of you that's convenient, because you have to go somewhere to practice, people typically don't practice as much, okay? Whereas with the heel, because you walk your dog every day, or most people do, since you practice that every day, that's usually the fastest thing that dogs learn, okay? So I give you all the tools, but then it's your job to make sure you're going out and you're practicing.
Right. I actually live right across from the park.
Oh, what park?
I live right on Irving Park.
Oh, okay,
Irving
sure.
Park in Lakeshore.
Sure.
So like like the soccer fields, right there.
So you're northeast?
Yes.
Up on,
Yes.
by Lakeshore?
Yep, 4,000 North Block.
I got you. Are you like before Wilson?
Yes, before
Yeah.
Wilson, you know the park? You
Sure.
know the one park right there?
I think I've seen it.
That
Is it like-
underpass?
Yeah.
It's right there, like right where the golf course goes.
Cool. Yeah, so you happen to have that convenience,
Yeah.
right? So then you'll get there faster. Now, your training is only as good as the environments you practice in. So like, let's say you practice in that park, but in that park, there's like not a ton of distraction, maybe not a lot of dogs or like squirrels or whatever. She's gonna be great there, but then if you go to a busier park, she's gonna be not so great, because she's used to that environment, right? So now if that environment has everything, you know, geese, rabbits, squirrels, dogs, you know, kids and all that stuff, then you have a nice, like that's like the prime environment, because if she can listen there, then technically anywhere else would be a piece of cake.
Excellent.
Okay? Because of COVID now, with the private in-person sessions, I actually don't handle the dog. Okay? I coach you through everything.
Okay.
And it's been great. So before COVID, I would take Sweetie, I would do some training, you would be there to watch so you could observe, then I'd give her back to you, and then I would say, now it's your turn, and I would coach you through it. But you would have a visual to kind of go from. Now, since I'm not handling the dog, the con is, it's a little bit more difficult because you're like, what the hell am I doing?
Right.
But the pro is, you're learning everything from ground zero. Okay? Nothing is tied to me, because a lot of times when I would see my clients have issues, like I would help them, but then the dog learned
From you.
I worked the issue, not the owner. And now a lot more is being done through the owner, so the dog relates it to you, not to me. And especially with a case like this with discipline and the separation anxiety, like you're wanting it to come from you. So she goes, oh, okay, like dad's not playing anymore, like he has rules now, okay? And it's been working out great. A lot of people are actually, how do you say, they like this method more because they are learning everything, like they're learning more from it because it's completely hands-on and it's strictly them. And then I'm not so much a part of it other than the instruction aspect of it. And if you happen to be struggling with something, we've also begun recording, the sessions and stuff, and we upload them on YouTube. And then, like, let's say you have an issue with a particular thing, I go on, I might have a case that we work on that very thing, and they go, here, watch this video. Yeah, now you have a resource. Excellent. I actually have a client that I sent her like 4 videos because she just started, and her dog, it's an 80-pound pit, and is super dog reactive, and she needed more info because she's trying to get it done very quickly. So she's got a lot of resources there. And then everything else is pretty straightforward. You train as you go about your life at Sweetie. So when you walk her, that will be your training sessions. There will be a couple things where you'll have to set aside some time, but really once the dog learns it, you just apply it, okay? So like, let's say, we've taught the recall, you go over to the park, you would have her on a long leash, and you let Sweetie just run around and have fun, and then she's maybe gonna chase a squirrel, and as she's chasing the squirrel, I'm like, I'm gonna call you now, right? That's your point of practicing so that it becomes applicable to the point of no leash, okay? Let's say we teach her like the down command, and you want to use that when you go to your friend's house so she's not all over the place. You practice that at home, maybe while you're working from home or something, where she's laying down and you'll get up and walk away and come back, she doesn't move. Okay, so this way when you go somewhere else and you tell her to down, she'll hold it for 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever length of time you're looking for. So you're just utilizing the obedience as you go about your day with her. You'll have to set aside sometimes, but not a ton. Okay, so like I feel like the lazy man's dog trainer. Once we learn everything, you just start using it. Okay. Questions so far?
No. Nothing that comes to mind.
You think here. One of the most common questions I get is, when does the e-collar go away? Right. Do you drive?
Yes.
You go on the expressway?
Yes.
Do you go speed limit?
If the traffic makes me, yeah.
Most people don't, right?
Right.
So, but if you see the squad car, what happens?
You slow down.
Exactly. Okay. So I look at the e-collar as a cop on a collar.
Okay.
So animals were opportunistic. Humans are animals, we're just more complex. So we're aware of it. If there's no cops around, we can get away with stuff like speeding, right? But if you see a squad car, everybody all of a sudden is going to be speed limit. So e-collar is very much the same way, and dogs are opportunistic. So if she's like, oh, dad's got that e-collar on, like, I'm gonna behave myself, I'm gonna be responsive, he's gonna call me, I'm gonna come back, blah, blah, blah. But then you go out without it, she's gonna go, oh, that cop's not here. Mm-hmm. Can you make me return, right? Can you make me heal? Okay, so it has nothing to do with the training. It has nothing to do with my skills as a trainer or how much time you put into it. It's the fact that there's an opportunity,
yeah.
Okay? And opportunistic behavior is a part of it, it's a part of survival, okay? So like, if, there's an alligator in a pond of water and the animals around it want to drink and the alligator's there, they're not going to drink. But when they see the alligator leave, everybody comes in to drink. That's an opportunity, okay? So that's where that comes from. So, because a lot of people ask that, like, well, dogs aren't like humans. She has a learning capacity of a 3 to 4-year-old child, and she's going to be there forever. Okay, she's never going to mature. She's not going to become an 18-year-old and get a job and pay the rent and all that stuff. She's forever a 3 to 4-year-old child, and 3 to 4-year-old children have to be told what to do or be made to do something. Okay, so that's just something realistically speaking. I've had clients in the past that's super rare that'll say like, oh Jesse, I'm past the e-collar, and their dogs will be good. But then I think about, well, what happens if like you're out at the park and like somebody randomly sets off a firework and it scares your dog? In that moment your dog is in flight mode and they're running for their life. It's not about disobedience, and come and call. The dog's going like, hey, there's a potential threat out there, and I need to get away from it because my life is at stake. Okay, and I've had that happen to me here twice in Logan Square walking my dogs. My pit hates fireworks, and it was like a month ago. Just randomly, I'm walking my dogs and it just blows up a firework, and then she's like, get me home. And I was like, I wish I would have my e-collar because, once she's in flight mode, because of what happened, really hard to get her back to stability, okay? So if I had the e-collar, I would have been able to taper that down and we would have continued to walk with the problem. So these things happen, and that's what I train for. Anytime anybody's ever told me like, hey, Jesse, I'm so glad I did e-collar, something crazy happened. I had a client in Lincoln Park walking with his dog off leash, turned around, and then he saw his dog nose to nose with a coyote. And he had did a full 12-week program, called his dog 180 immediately. So he didn't have to do anything. But he was like, man, he's like, if my dog didn't have that great recall that we built in, I don't know if that would have been like, you know, a coyote fight. I had another client's dog run away because of fireworks. They were able to get the dog back because they did e-collar. So that's just the reality of it. So I always tell people, when you need it, you have it. If it's a quick, I'm gonna run you up to go potty, and we're back inside, like who cares? You know, if you don't like the reactivity that she was displaying outside, then, you know, we want to have that collar on. Otherwise, if it's like, nah, I can deal with it, I know she's friendly, then I personally don't care. But if it's like, we're gonna be at the lake, you're gonna be running off leash or whatever, then those are definitely times when we want to make sure that that device is on. Okay? And my guy's been off leash trained for 8 years. I don't ever, it's not that you're always using it.
Right.
Right? It's that in case something happens,
there.
it's like it's present and you're able to regain that control. Okay? Questions about that?
No, I'm okay with that. I wouldn't have an issue with keeping her on. Like I said, I'm gonna learn and see what works best with her.
Sure. And then in the house, if she's a good girl, you don't have it on. You know, if you're leaving and she's moved past the point of separation anxiety, you don't need it anymore. You know, so everything's really played by ear. Again, you know, Sweetie here knows, and we just figure it out as we go along. Okay. I think here, it's one of the collar stuff. Things are changing, so I got to figure out what I'm going to do. But we were training at Oz Park.
Okay.
Which is in Lincoln Park. You remember Oz?
Yes.
Yeah. So we were training there because Oz is actually the busiest park in Chicago, apparently.
Okay, so it's lots of stimuli.
Yeah, there's everything. But now, because it's fall, it's quieter.
Right.
You know, like I just came from there from a couple other training visits, and there's people still, but nothing like it was, you know, pre the cold weather now.
Right.
But we like using Oz because it is so open in terms of space and stuff, and we do get distractions and stuff. It allows us to social distance, and then verbal instruction, and then you still have stimuli and stuff to work around with. And then we just started opening up home to home, where I travel out to where you are, but they carry 2 different rates. I just started it, so I don't know the rates off the top of my head.
Okay.
But Maria can send you that.
Okay.
So the reason why there's a higher rate now is because since I am centralized to Oz Park, essentially, it's either Oz or here.
Okay.
So if I had a client last night, they booked at 7, it's too dark. So then we meet here instead.
Right.
Or if it's raining or it's snowing or it's too cold, we can meet here instead.
Okay.
So it's either we're at Oz or working over here at my facility.
Okay.
Otherwise, since it's centralized to these 2 locations, pre-COVID, my business was built on I go to everybody.
Right.
Okay. But then it became I see up to as many 8 people a day.
Right.
Is
It
that
makes it easier for you if you're in one place.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, since I see so many people within a day and I'm going to their homes, if someone is sick and I go to somebody else's home and I'm spreading it throughout the day, right?
Absolutely.
So now we have limited availability for that.
Okay.
And it comes at a high rate because now it's pulling me from how we operate now. But it doesn't matter about the location really. Even for my clients that train here at the facility, once you understand how e-collar works, it's let's say with Sweetie, here she trains on 25 and she's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell you at the end of the lesson, within this setting, nothing going on, her number is 25. But when you go to practice in your neighborhood and there's things going on, that number may go higher. So it's really just practicing what you learn here at the appropriate number at your home. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's just making the obedience be meaningful enough that she will adhere to it no matter what the location is. And it almost always comes down to the number. Whenever a client struggles with anything, it's almost always a number. Yeah, because they feel bad.
Yeah. They
They're-
don't want to raise it up.
Exactly, they feel bad. And then my clients that do really well just jump straight to it. They're like, yep, that's where I go to, because they're going by the dog and not about how they feel about things, So because we're logical, for clients at 85, they're like, holy crap, I'm at 85 or 127, that's so high, right? But for me, I'm like, yeah, but your dog's still being reactive, so clearly it's not high enough. We keep going up, And every case is different. With her reactivity in terms of like the overstimulation and the whining and stuff, if you're trying to shut that down, ideally the heel exercise will resolve that because she's going to have impulse control. But like, let's say her desire to like greet the dog is so high and you're trying to squash that, you know, your behavior level or correction for behavior level may be different for your obedience level. And it could be vastly different. It could be 25 and she's great with heel, but then when she sees a dog, she starts squealing, you could be 75. Okay? And it's just recognizing and knowing like, okay, cool, like when this is gonna happen, I have to be here, and once that's done, I can go back to here. Okay? So it's very nuanced. But once you understand it, it's pretty straightforward. It's just getting over the fact of like thinking about like, I'm hurting my dog.
Right.
And I liken it to like, I was raised old school, I was spanked. So, you know.
You know, I mean, when I was growing up, I was like, I'll never hit my kids. And then as soon as I got a little older and I got some perspective and I saw how awful I was, like, I was like, you know, I'm surprised my mom did it before.
You know, it's being raised old school, like, you know, spanking hurt, but the intention wasn't to hurt me, you know? And that's the same thing, the same way I look at the e-collar and stuff, is that it can be uncomfortable, but your intention here is not to hurt her or to, you know, cause her any physical harm.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're communicating with her on her level, which is physicality. Like even here, you see how she's getting frustrated? And she's like nipping at you and stuff like that. So she's going to physicality to express her frustration, you know? And and this is all excitement, there you go. So once you communicate with her on her language, and the e-collar allows you to do that at the press of a button, you'll start to see the difference. Okay? Okay. Any questions or concerns?
With the sessions, is it once a week?
Once a week, yeah. So each session is an hour.
Okay.
Once a week, and then like let's say you talk to Maria, she knows my schedule, and then she would coordinate with you. And like if there was a set time that worked for you each week, let's say you did like 9 classes.
Yeah.
You would get priority over that time for 9 classes plus 1. So for 10 weeks, that time is yours. No one can take it from you.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now let's say you travel or something, you go out of town, you have to reschedule a few classes or bump it back. By the time you hit that 10th class, maybe you have 3 classes left over. If it's a high, like a very like highly desired time, or it's like we have people that need to book and they're asking for that time, because you've lost priority, to keep my calendar rolling, Maria would have to book that time, but she would tell you beforehand, like, hey, by the way, you used up your priority, and then you don't lose your classes, you just may have to be rescheduled.
You might have to adjust.
Exactly,
Yeah.
okay? If it's, you never reschedule anything, then you're solid and you go straight through the classes, no problem. If I have to reschedule or something, or if I cancel, we don't count that against you. That's on me, if I get sick or something. But yeah, so you don't lose the classes, you just use the priority over that time that you reserve. You know, and like let's say you do a daytime or something like that. I'm usually reverse. Some people do 9 to 5. I'm usually evenings and weekends. Although right now I know like essentially Friday through Monday I'm booked. I was booked this whole weekend like 8 to 8 essentially. And tomorrow I'm booked from like 10 to 8. So, but we have people, like I just had a client clear up. So my schedule is constantly changing. So depending on your availability and the time you ask for, like it just how to say, like if you ask for like a 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, nobody wants that. Like even if you reschedule, chances are you're gonna keep your time because nobody really books at 9 in the morning.
Right.
So, questions?
No, you've been pretty thorough. So the training will be either here or at Oz Park.
Yeah.
Depending on where we want to do it, or the weather, or whatever.
Yeah. And I train range sleet or snow. But of course she's a short-haired breed here. Once it gets colder, she may not do well in the cold, so you also want to factor that in. I've even trained in the polar vortex a couple days ago.
That was awful.
I know, the person had a husky. They're like, oh, my dog loves this weather. And I was like, all right, here we go.
I did my laundry. I remember my laundry got frozen because the air that blew in.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so it was warm when it got done, and then it got frozen.
Interesting, yeah. It's crazy.
That was a really weird winter.
But yeah, so we play it by ear. If it looks too cold for her, we can just switch up here. This is a 13,000 square foot space, and my training floor is about, I think, 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. So plenty of space to work with here. Okay? Anything else?
No, that's it.
So Maria will follow up with you. She'll send you a breakdown of the pricings and the options and stuff. She'll also send you the make and model of the collar. I think you took a note of it now.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't foresee any issues. Do you plan, actually, I remember now, do you plan on getting her spayed?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so she's probably like another week or two from this, she's in her third week of being in heat.
Sure.
So like I took her to the vet and he told me to, once her, sit down, sit. Once her cycle is up, to get her fixed a month after.
Gotcha. Okay, so you got essentially like 6 to 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I'm already on a waiting list for her to get fixed.
Gotcha. When she gets fixed, you know, if you're doing a longer program, she's gonna need a week off to heal, just so you're aware. Which is perfectly fine. Like we have a couple puppies that got neutered or spayed during their training session, no big deal. You just let us know when you have it booked for, and then we already know the plan for that week that we're not gonna see you, and then we just push back the week. So that she has plenty of time to heal. Anything else?
No. Anything else? Just the e-collar is the only thing that I would need.
Yep. And then we'll play it by ear for the bark collar.
Okay.
And then it's pretty much it. You know, if anything pops up during the training sessions, like maybe it was completely unforeseen, and something comes out of the blue, you know, we can always deviate to address that issue. Uh-oh.
Like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't think she actually chewed through that. I thought she had just like gnawed on it a little bit. What you can do here is if you take your leash and loop it through the middle of that where she chewed through that handle, and then loop that through your handle, it'll make it long again. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. There you go. Yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of things that are to cover. It's usually when does the collar go away, and then just like length of time depending on what the owner is looking for. Okay?
Right. Yeah, because she's fantastic. It's just like she doesn't know. The issues are she needs to know what's acceptable and what's not.
Yeah, and correcting all this stuff here, some of this may actually go away on its own, just through discipline. Otherwise, I'll give you tools and the information to correct these behaviors, like the jumping up on you and nipping at your hands and stuff like that. That's all because she's just bored and
Yep.
she wants activity.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
She hasn't gone on a run today. Sit down. Sit. Sit. Good girl.
Otherwise, she's a cutie.
Yeah.
I like her. My pet had her first cycle too.
Yeah?
Yeah, like, you know, this was years ago. But I was kind of getting her spayed, and then, she
got
a
pregnant?
cycle. No, she didn't get pregnant, but she started, you know, going to heat and stuff. So we had to wait for her to clear that up before I got her spayed. So if you need anything else, you can let us know. Maria will follow up with you.
Okay.
And then she'll handle all the booking and stuff. And then if you have any other questions, just let us know. And then once you're confirmed, I'll send you some videos to watch to prep you for the first class. So when you come in, we can just jump right into the training.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting started because
Oh, actually, what you also need to get is like a flat buckle collar.
a flat knuckle collar.
Flat buckle. Kind of like a butt buckle.
Uh-huh.
You know, so you don't want a snap buckle because the snaps can break. The flat buckle is when it feeds through and you put the prong in or whatever, like a belt.
Uh-huh.
Because the harnesses promote pulling and give you less control. Okay, so just the regular flat buckle with the e-collar,
Okay.
and you should be set. And then a standard leash,
So with the e-collar, I'll have to buy a collar as well?
a regular flat buckle, correct.
Okay.
They run like 12, 15 bucks unless you get something like fancy. Yeah, because the harness here promotes pulling and agitates more, so it'll counteract the e-collar.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I got this more for when we're riding.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, relax.
Alrighty. So I'll lead you out. If you need anything else, you let us know. Otherwise, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Very nice
And
meeting
be
you.
careful, because she just.